circles?
Yes.
Me too. And that can be very frustrating. However, with the Daisywheel Active Learning Strategy, you might enjoy it. We're going to use this strategy to introduce the concept of the gold rush. If you notice, on this piece of butcher paper, I have the subtitles for the chapter written down. On this particular page, it says Rush for Gold. If I can direct your attention over here. The second one says Life in the Mining Camps, page 398. Surface Mining, page 399. The Impact of the Gold Rush, page 400. Students, I showed you that we have 4 pieces of butcher paper. Each cooperative group is going to get its own marker. Different colors, purple, red, blue, and my favorite color, a beautiful shade of brown. You're going to take a marker and you're going to read that page and generate an important piece of information. And you're going to write it on the butcher paper. Each group is going to do that. And then we're going to rotate by one. You're going to read the information that's there. You're not going to copy it. You're going to come up with something unique. And you're going to write it down on the butcher paper. We're going to continue to do that until we have 4 different pieces of information with 4 different colors. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Andrea, you and Josh are going to start by reading page 397, Rush for Gold. You're going to read it, discuss it, and write down one piece of important information. And I'm going to give you a blue marker for that. John, your role is going to read Life in the Mining Camps, page 398. You're going to discuss it, come up with one valuable and important piece of information, and you're going to write it down. You're going to have a purple marker. Stephanie, you and Haley are going to read Surface Mining, page 399. Red. Guess what?
We get brown.
The Impact of the Gold Rush, page 400, and you get the beautiful shade of brown.
Yeah.
I want you to gently push your desk together and read the pages that I asked you to read. Go ahead. I would also like you to take your notebooks out, and I want you to write down the header that corresponds with the butcher paper. After that, I'll have you discuss with each other, and you'll take what you think is the most important piece of information and use your marker to write it on the butcher paper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and read first and write second. Students, at this time I would like you to talk to one another about the facts that you've listed on your notebook and come up with what you think is the most important one. And maybe it's a combination. You're going to rewrite it because each of you has some ideas. You have one good fact, a piece of information from those ideas. So go ahead and talk about it, come up with one idea, and then I'm going to have you write it on the butcher paper.
The high prices, and then you'd be lucky to find gold.
I had that they had coastal names like Manual Gulch, Hangtown, and Coyote Digging. There was exhaustion, pork, that's what we should use.
What do you guys think?
Does each cooperative group feel like it has one important piece of information for your topic?
Yeah.
All right, I want you to pick a representative from your group, and I want you to write that underneath the header. Go. Do you ever feel like you're going around in circles? This can be frustrating, except when it leads to vast amounts of learning on behalf of your students. Then, going around in circles feels spectacular. The Daisywheel strategy can be used many different ways. I typically use it when I do not feel I can cover all the content that is required of me, which is why I seem to use it so often. You might also use the Daisywheel strategy to introduce a new concept or bring closure to a unit. This strategy, as always, is truly flexible. I begin by placing several sheets of butcher paper in various parts of my room. I want the paper displayed before my students enter the room because it gets them excited about the strategy. One piece of butcher paper hangs on the wall for each concept or idea I want my students to know and understand. I write a header on top of each piece of paper. The header corresponds with the concepts or subtopics you are teaching. For instance, if I were discussing the parts of an atom, I might write nucleus, protons, electrons, and neutrons, along with the page numbers or other resources where the students can find the information. Next, I would create as many cooperative groups as there are pieces of paper on the walls. I may have 4 or as many as 8 groups. Okay, you have read the next section. You have discussed it. Does each cooperative group have one piece of important information?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Is it different than what's already listed on the butcher paper?
Yes.
Awesome. Pick somebody else and go ahead and write it. Each piece of butcher paper now has 2 important facts, which is wonderful. You're going to adjust by 1. I want you to point to the butcher paper that you're responsible for this time. And everybody's pointing in a different direction, so that's good. Go ahead. I like that Josh is reading the facts off the butcher paper before he begins to copy new information down. Remember, don't repeat it. The cooperative groups read the page or pages listed on their piece of butcher paper. After a few minutes of reading, use your discretion for the amount of time needed, I have my students discuss the information. Then, each cooperative group sends forth a representative to write an important idea or fact associated with the concepts or subtopics listed on the butcher paper. Each cooperative group uses its own colored marker. If the subtopic were protons, a student might write, "Protons always have a positive charge." Next, the cooperative groups rotate and adjust by 1. Group 1 that started on the first piece of butcher paper moves to the second piece. Group 4, or the last group, moves to the first piece of butcher paper. I help guide the Daisywheel strategy so students are reading and writing on the correct topic at the correct time. Students should write large enough for other groups to read the information from their seats. Otherwise, cooperative groups can send forth a representative that reads and reports back to the group what was written. You want to avoid students repeating information. At the end of this strategy, if you are pleased with the information provided by each cooperative group, use a digital camera and take a picture of the various papers. Then, print these pictures and provide each student with a complete set of notes. Instead of relating this to pages from a book, students could use this strategy following a large group discussion or a lecture that required note-taking. Beyond mere facts, students might be asked to write opinions or solutions on the butcher paper. All students are placed into groups.
When it comes to my more distractible students, I usually encourage them to be runners, reporting back what the previous group wrote. If I am unable to persuade them to be an active member, at least they listen to the lively discourse as group members discuss their facts. These students also listen more intently as the strategy ends, and I move about the room, processing the information.
Nice job generating information related to your topics. Each piece of butcher paper has 4 facts, and the colors relate right back to your cooperative groups. And I think purple is Alicia's and John's group, is that right?
Yep.
Minors wanted to get rich quick. What we're going to do now is we're going to go in more depth with each of these pieces of information. Let's take this one, for instance. Is that something that still happens in our society today?
Yes.
Absolutely. What forms does it take? Now, we don't really rush off to the hills of California looking for gold, but what are some ways that we try to get rich quick, or what are some ways adults try to get rich quick today? The lottery. How many of you know somebody that plays the lottery? Quite a few of you. Other methods.
This Making Connections moment goes directly to one of your colleagues that may wonder out loud, how much influence can a teacher truly have upon a troubled student when that troubled student comes from an environment which is dysfunctional, turbulent, or simply unhealthy? It's a fair thought. I have been fortunate to work with many teachers at a variety of conferences. One question that usually comes up goes something like this: how can I, with the best of intentions, make a difference in a child's life when he only spends a small portion of his day in school, and the remainder of that day, all weekend long and during the summer months, he is in an unhealthy environment? My answer: you can have a tremendous positive impact. You are a role model. Your dignified manner, compassion, integrity, intelligence, and honesty will go a long way to show the child what is possible. The child may want to aspire to be just like you. You are, in a word, the hope he does not have otherwise.